Hey y'all, it's Dawn, and I'm so glad you're back. I've got another fun, budget-friendly DIY video for you today. Today is another Third Thursday thrift flip, and y'all know how much I love thrift flips. More about the collab shortly. Let's get into the DIYs. I picked up this tray at a thrift store a while back. I've been holding on to it for Christmas. As you can see, the tray had a few bad spots from water damage, but I was determined to make this a Christmas tray. I cleaned the tray and removed some of the existing paint with a Dollar Tree sanding sponge, awesome cleaner, and nail polish remover. At first, I painted the inside of the tray with Waverly Crimson chalk paint. I found these natural wood candle holders in my stash. I think I got them from either Michael's or Hobby Lobby. I can't remember. I decided to use them as feet on the tray. I used Dollar Tree wood glue and hot glue to attach the little candle holders. I used the wood glue for a permanent hold and the hot glue for the immediate hold. At this point, I thought of a transfer I got from Couture and knew I had to repaint the tray with Waverly Mineral chalk paint. Do you do that? You have an idea when you start a project and then all of a sudden change your mind? Let me know in the comments if you do this too. I find myself doing it all the time. I painted the entire tray with mineral chalk paint, including the feet. I wanted to add a little distressing. I used a piece of sandpaper and just hit the areas that would show normal wear, the handles and the edges, and then cleaned it with a baby wipe. I then used Waverly Elephant chalk paint to give the tray a little more dimension and distressing. Once the tray was completely dry, I applied Chalk Couture surface wax to the inside of the tray. If you use these reusable mesh transfers on wood, I suggest using a surface wax to prolong the life of your transfer. I applied a thin layer of wax using a paper towel and then buffed it out. You don't want a thick layer of wax, just something between your wood and the transfer. I placed the Chalk Couture Joy to the World transfer on the fuzzing cloth 4 or 5 times since this is the first time I'll be using this transfer. This is a large transfer. It's 18 inches by 18 inches. And I knew I only needed to use the top portion of it on the tray. So I only fuzzed the portion that I was going to use. I placed the transfer onto the tray and used a squeegee to make sure I didn't have any air bubbles. I'm sorry about my head, but when you get into a project, you sometimes forget about the camera. I added painter's tape to the areas I didn't want to get chalk paste onto. I placed Chalk Couture Black Velvet chalk paste onto the transfer. I used thick globs to start with, and then covered the entire transfer using a squeegee. Once the transfer was covered with paste, I began removing the excess and placing it back into the jar. Believe it or not, but a jar of chalk couture paste goes a long way. You want to start with a thick coat, but then you remove the excess paste and put it back into the jar. I've been using chalk couture for a couple of months now, and I love it. I'll leave a link to my chalk couture site in the description if you're wondering what it's all about and why you want to start using it. If you have any questions about chalk couture, leave me a comment below. I answer all my comments and love helping people when I can. I pulled the transfer up and knew right away I had made the right decision to repaint it. I have to admit, I messed up with the transfer. When I pulled it back, it actually stuck together in a few places. I was able to fix the transfer while I was cleaning it. When the transfer gets wet, it's not as sticky. So I was able to work with it and unstick it without ruining the transfer. I love the look of this tray, and it has one of my favorite Christmas song lyrics on it. The last thing I did was add a layer of satin Mod Podge to protect it. I have to say, I have a new Christmas favorite. I love everything about this little tray. Let me know in the comments what you think of this Joy to the World Christmas tray. I got this little sled recently at a yard sale for $5. It's cute and all, but of course, I have something else in mind. The first thing I did was take the sled outside and use my Dremel tool to cut through the metal to remove the seat and the top of the sled. With everything removed, I used a couple of scrap pieces of wood and measured how wide I needed them to be. I cut the wood down using a miter saw. I had these red boards that I got out of a neighbor's trash and thought they were perfect for this sled. I did ask before I took them. I attached the boards using Dollar Tree wood glue and some screws. I drilled pilot holes first to keep the wood from splitting, or so I thought. I actually put one of the screws in too tight and split the wood. I attached the wood that I cut to the boards. I had cut the wood so that it would fit over the metal part of the sled to hold everything together. Once I had everything together, I started painting the rails of the sled. I wish I would have done this before putting the sled together, but I was so excited to see how this turned out, I wasn't thinking. I painted all the metal and the two pieces of wood I had cut with Waverly ink chalk paint. I like the distressed look of the boards, but I decided to paint the top of the sled with Waverly Crimson chalk paint. I applied chalk couture surface wax to the top of the sled and buffed it out. After fuzzing my Chalk Couture transfer, I placed it onto the sled. I used Chalk Couture bright white paste and applied it to the transfer. After the entire transfer was covered, I removed the excess and placed it back into the jar. I removed the transfer and wow, just look at how stinking cute this gnome turned out. I used some ribbon I got from Hobby Lobby and made a bow using a zip tie. And hot glued it onto the sled. And just look at how stinking cute. If you're interested in this item, you'll find it on. If you're interested in this item, you can find it in my online store. I'll leave a link in the description for it. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is part of the third Thursday Thrift Flip collab hosted by Tammy at the Rusty Willow and Elizabeth at Southern Gmore Girls. Both of these women are so talented. If you get a chance, check out their channels. I'll leave a link to both of their channels along with the link to this month's playlist in the description. Now back to the DIYs. I got this large picture frame at Goodwill, and as y'all are well aware, I love thrift flips. I love taking something and transforming it. To start, I removed everything from the back. After removing the paper from the back, I realized the picture was held with staples. I used a pair of pliers and eventually got all the staples removed and was able to remove the picture. I placed the back of the frame onto a piece of foam board and cut it with a rotary tool. I used Waverly Crimson chalk paint and painted one side of the foam board, and of course dried it with my heat gun. I wanted to give the foam board a worn and weathered wood look. So I dry brushed Waverly Antiquing Wax and again dried it with my heat gun. I'll be using a Chalk Couture transfer. Since I will be placing the transfer onto a paper backing, I used a Dollar Tree natural sponge and rubbed some Chalk Couture surface wax onto the painted foam board and buffed it out. I placed the new transfer onto the fuzzing mat 4 or 5 times before placing it onto the foam board. This helps to remove some of the stickiness from the transfer, and I was hoping it wouldn't pull up the paper foam board covering. I placed the transfer onto the foam board and used a ruler to center it. Once it was centered, I used my hands, a roller, and also a squeegee to rub the transfer down and to make sure I didn't have any air bubbles in it. I used Chalk Couture bright white paste and applied a thick layer with a small squeegee. After the transfer was covered, I removed the excess paste and placed it back into the jar. At this point, I had my fingers and toes both crossed, hoping this would work out like I wanted. I pulled the transfer up and could not believe how amazing this sign turned out. Just look at how perfect it is. I cleaned the glass, placed the foam board in the frame, and replaced the back. Since the backing had been stapled, I used painter's tape and taped the back on. Next time I go to Home Depot, I'm going to pick up some of the little tabs and use those on this frame. The back may not be pretty, but it worked. Let me know what you think of this candy cane sign in the comments below. If you're interested in purchasing this item, you can find it in my online store. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Merry Christmas! Thank you to all my subscribers. Y'all are the absolute best and have made this year so exciting. If you found me through the playlist, I hope you will consider subscribing to our little family. Be sure to like this video and leave me a comment. This really helps my channel to grow so others just like yourself will be inspired by my videos. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Happy crafting!